Why choose a Sleep Number smart bed?
Can I make my site softer?
Can I make my site firmer?
Can we sleep cooler?
Sleep Number does that. Cools up to 8 times faster and lets you choose your ideal comfort on either side. Your Sleep Number setting. It's the Sleep Number biggest sale of the year. All beds on sale, up to 50% off the limited edition smart bed, plus free home delivery with the purchase of any smart bed. Ends Monday. All Sleep Number smart beds offer temperature solutions for your best sleep. Check it out at a Sleep Number store or sleepnumber.com today.
Now, The Hunt Palmer Show.
He needs care and treatment.
You are now listening to The Hunt Palmer Show. Brought to you by Daryl May of Trustee Properties on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Is this a great country or what?
Locking down the middle of the day. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
Hunt Palmer coming to you from Mercedes-Benz at Baton Rouge Studio downtown in the capital city on this Tuesday. Means we're brought to you by Daryl May of Trustee Properties. Taylor Sharp, Cassie Spazzali back there on the ones and twos. Fired up, you're hanging out with us here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. LSU back out on the practice field today. We're talking about it. Saints offensive line suffers a setback. Will Clapp going to miss a little bit of time. We'll talk about it. Glen West go 24/7 in 30 minutes. We'll meet the freshmen as well. I took the time on LouisianaSports.net over the weekend to take LSU's schedule and rank it from most challenging to least challenging. We'll do a little bit of that in the second hour, and got a story up. It's basically a column on LouisianaSports.net as well today, talking about LSU's defense, specifically last year in the run defense and a little bit about pass rush. We'll get into that in the second hour before we get to Sharif Ishaq, who's been covering the black and gold as they start to look forward towards their second preseason game coming up in the Dome on Sunday. So lots and lots to do. Lock us in. We'll start the same way we start every day with our Genesis opening drive.
It's time for Hunt's opening drive, presented by Genesis of Baton Rouge.
Let's get you our practice report from today. We were able to go out there for about an hour and watch LSU at the end of their practice today. We did not get the beginning portion of workout that generally is inside. We just saw the end of practice. Early on, not a lot for us to look at. Some special teams drills, well as some linemen going through some walkthroughs, quarterbacks doing very light work with light route tree. And then they finally ramped it up a little bit, went to 7-on-7 and 11-on-11. I know 11-on-11 is what most people want to hear about. It's what I want to watch. It's what I want to talk about. So we'll get into the 11-on-11 portion here. And before I give you some play-by-play, just an overarching theme. I thought the defense won the day in 11-on-11. I thought they did a really good job up front, and I really thought that the defensive backs did a really nice job in coverage to create some pass breakups. Let me get to first the running plays, and I will tell you that when they went out for 11-on-11, they started with the first offense against the second defense, and then they went with the second offense against the first defense. Now, some of those pieces are interchangeable, but that was the framework of what we were watching. When the first team offense went out against the second team defense, they started Patrick Payton had a tackle for loss in the backfield. He dropped Xavier Thomas, who was back there with Nussmeier, took a handoff. He was dropped in the backfield. Then there was a false start on Weston Davis. He was pulled from the drill at right tackle. He went and ran laps. And then you had on the second play that actually was run, Nussmeier was in a crowded pocket, and he stepped up and fired over the middle from about the 20-yard line into the end zone into, as I'm tracking the ball, a mass of humanity. A lot of offensive guys, a lot of defensive guys around the goalposts, and Xavier Thomas jumped up and made a catch over DJ Pickett for a nice touchdown. It was a high-risk throw, turned into a very high-reward throw, and the offense drew real first blood there in that section for the first offense against the second defense. And the second-team offense went out there. It was not a work of art. P.J. Woodland did get flagged for pass interference on Berrien Brown. That moved the ball down inside the 5-yard line. You had a first and goal run. Carroll Perkins tackle for loss for a big play in the backfield on Caleb Jackson. There was hands to the face called, so they moved it down to the 1-yard line. They motioned Michael Van Buren out, did a direct snap to Juwan Johnson. He did not even get back to the line of scrimmage, but there was a penalty on the offense on that play that backed him up to the 6. Michael Van Buren then threw for Trey'Daz Green. It was incomplete with Deshaun Spears in coverage. And then you had another direct snap looking like it was going to go to Juwan Johnson in the backfield, but instead they snapped it to Caleb Jackson next to him, and hit Caleb Jackson in the face mask. Ball was on the ground, and it was picked up by the defense and run the other way, and Delane probably would have scored a touchdown on that play. So not a work of art there from the second-team offense. They never got across the line of scrimmage outside of a couple penalties. So not great there. First-team offense went back out there. Ahmad Bro stopped Caden Durham for a 2-yard gain. This was coming out of LSU's own end zone, going the length of the field, so a 95-yard drive you were looking at. Garrett Nussmeier fired to Nick Anderson, who made a diving catch moving forward for a 4-yard gain. It was not a great throw by Nussmeier there. And then Nussmeier was flushed out of the pocket on 3rd down, fired for Aaron Anderson on the sideline, and Ashton Stamps came up and broke it up for a nice play. Then the second-team offense went out there. They handed the ball to Juwan Johnson. Harold Perkins and Whit Weeks combined for a tackle for loss there. Michael Van Buren ran for 6 yards on a passing play. Then he threw the ball to Donovan Green for about 6 yards, and P.J. Woodland made the tackle on that play. West Weeks came up and made a great play at the line of scrimmage against Juwan Johnson on a running play as well. Michael Van Buren then ran a QB draw for about 3 yards. Then the second defense came in against the second offense, and Michael Van Buren threw for Trey Green. It was incomplete. That was a lot there, a lot of play-by-play. But here's something that stood out to me. I charted all the running plays here with everybody, first and second team. Here what the running plays sounded like. This was the first team offense. Patrick Payton, TFL, and Xavion Thomas. Then you go to the second team offense. Harold Perkins, TFL for -4 on Caleb Jackson. Then a first and goal run, direct snap to Juwan Johnson, no gain. Then a direct snap to Caleb Jackson, fumble. Here's the first team offense. Ahmad Bro stops Caden Durham for 2 yards. Second team offense, Harold Perkins and Whit Weeks, TFL on Juwan Johnson for a little bit of a loss. And then West Week at the line of scrimmage stuffs Juwan Johnson. That is 7 running plays. TFL, 0, fumble, 2 yards, TFL, stopped at the line of scrimmage. They only gained 2 yards at any point during 7 running plays. So not great from the first nor second team offensive line there, just not a lot of places to run. I will also say that in the course of that, you had a Stamps pass breakup. You had a Woodland solid tackle. You had another pass breakup by, let's see. You had one more pass breakup. Either way, there were guys getting their hands on the football. Mansour Delane had a pass breakup. There it was. So I thought that the defense won the day. But as has been kind of the theme, I feel like the defense, if I were to go back and chart every play that I've seen, I would say the defense is winning, I would almost say significantly more in the 11-on-11 than the offense. However, the offense always seems to make that one play, and they made that one play for a 20-yard touchdown to Xavion Thomas. And that's kind of been the MO of the offense to this point. I would personally rather see, if I'm just talking about the offense and I'm taking the defense out of the equation here, which is impossible in an LSU environment, but pretend for a second I'm only evaluating the offense and not the defense. I would rather the offense consistently get 4 or 5 yards on the ground, consistently get 7 or 8 yards on the ground, as opposed to TFL, 1, 3, 1, TFL, 1, TFL, 50. Like, I respect the explosiveness of the offense, and if you can promise me you're going to bust off 2 50-yard runs every game, well, I'll take that. We'll live. Those just are harder to come by in live action against great defenses, which LSU will see. So to me, there is an element of dependability in the big play with the offense. There's an element of dependability with the explosives in the offense, but there's also a lack of consistency, I think, with the offense. They're not running it great consistently, and Nussmeier's just dealing with muddy pockets a lot. And one thing I did like from the muddy pocket today was on the play where he was flushed out and threw it out towards Aaron Anderson and Stamps had the PBU. Nussmeier was 100% full speed on that play. It was 11-on-11, full tackle, of course not on him, but a full tackle for everybody else. He drops back, feels the pressure, steps up, runs out to his right, and he was booking it out to the right and threw it on the run absolutely no limitation, absolutely no limping. So to me, you're looking at a quarterback with a sleeve on his right knee that is perfectly capable of practicing, and I'm done with that storyline for now. So that's a good thing. I told you yesterday on Monday's show that I was a little concerned with what I was hearing from what the people that saw Saturday. I'm not concerned at all, like 0% at this point. He's practicing full go and looks just fine. In the 7-on-7 period today, charted all those plays as well. That was before the 11-on-11. But I wanted to go through Nussmeier's. A lot of checkdowns a little bit early. Check down to Caden Durham. Hit a nice corner route to Aaron Anderson for 15 yards, which was a good play. Then he checked one down to Caleb Jackson, who continues to catch the ball well. I've been impressed with Caleb Jackson's ability to catch the ball. I don't worry about Barry at all in the check down game. I'm not worrying about Caden Durham at all in the check down game either. He's catching the ball very well. So Nussmeier 3 for 3 on those first 3 throws. Then they went to some situational stuff in 7-on-7. They were working 3rd and 5 for 3 snaps. Nussmeier threw to Kyle Parker, hit him right in the hands, and he dropped it. Uncharacteristic. Parker's had a really good camp, but drops happen from time to time. He dropped that one. Then he hit Juwan Johnson on a really nice route by Juwan Johnson. He went out he was lined up on the right side of the formation, went out towards the sideline, and then cut the route back up into the middle of the field, and Nussmeier hit him on a 3rd and 5 right in stride. He beat Devon Keys on that play, which was really, really good. Juwan Johnson's learning a 3rd position here, and he's doing a good job with it there. That was a good throw and catch. Then Mansour Lane with a nice pass breakup on Xavion Thomas on the next one. So Nussmeier was 1 out of 3 in that 3rd and 5 session, but 2 of them were right on the money. Then one was a really good play by the defense. Then they went to 3rd and 8. Nussmeier threw to Barry and Brown over the middle, and Devon Keys had a good pass breakup. Like to see him mixing things up. And again, good job by the LSU linebackers and secondary to get their hands on some footballs today. Nussmeier threw to Destin Hill. DJ Pickett was in really good coverage and would have been stopped short of the 3rd and 8 first down. So a good job by DJ Pickett to make that happen. And then on 3rd and 8, Nussmeier threw to Aaron Anderson, who beat Deshaun Spears. Really tight window, really good throw. And this is a continuation of my feelings on LSU's offense versus defense practices. When Nussmeier gets an opportunity with those wide receivers to go to work in 7-on-7, his completion percentage is astronomically high. Guys are making really good catches. He's accurate. He's on time. Sometimes he takes a snap and it feels like he's waiting a long time back there and you might not have a lot of time. That happens every once in a while, but a lot of times he's just in rhythm and makes the throws. And then when they go to 11-on-11, it just doesn't look that clean. And that's obviously going to be the case far more often than not. The offensive line and defensive line serve a huge purpose for a reason, to make sure that that part of the game is impactful. So when you take them completely out in a 7-on-7, I get that it looks very different. But LSU's offense hums in 7-on-7, and it doesn't hum when they get to 11-on-11. And when I take those two things and I connect dots, you can't go any further but to suggest, like, there are times where that offensive line just it struggles. And I realize it's a tired narrative, but I go out to practice and I chart a whole new practice every day. And if a story drastically changes, I will tell you about how that story changed. The story's not really changing a lot. One thing I love about this practice, this camp that I've charted, that I've watched, how many times have I been out there now? 7, 8 times? LSU's defense is making plays at every level. They're getting TFLs from the defensive line. The linebackers are getting TFLs. The linebackers are having pass breakups. Harold Perkins with a pick. West Weeks making plays at the line of scrimmage. Devon Keys with a pass breakup. And then the secondary is holding its own. 3 years now, I've gone out to these fall camp practices. The secondary has not held its own. It just hasn't. They are now. So I expect very much a step up for this LSU defense. I've got numbers that are going to talk about how I'm going to use this word, how bad LSU's defense was last year. We have a warped perspective because they were better than 2023. 2023 was abysmal. Last year was bad. And I'm going to talk about some of those numbers in the second hour. This camp has looked very different, and I'm excited about that. And when linebackers are making interceptions and pass breakups and DBs are making plays down the field, that has nothing to do with LSU's offensive line trying to find itself. That's guys making plays on the football independent of that, obviously, which I like to see. So that's a look at LSU football practice today. We may not get another look at the Tigers this week. They will practice on Wednesday and Thursday. We will not be allowed in. We don't have word on what Friday and Saturday look like. Brian Kelly suggested a couple weeks ago that Saturday were going to be their scrimmage days. We did have access this past Saturday. We'll see if that's the case this week. But right now, no word as to when we'll see him again. If you'd like a full practice report, it's got play-by-play as well as some of my commentary. You can check that out for free on LouisianaSports.net. Tuesday show is brought to you by Daryl May of Trusty Properties. If you're looking for some hunting land in the Felicianas, in Point Capee, in southern Mississippi, around Woodville, St. Francisville, in Felicianas, if you're looking for hunting property, if you're looking for a place for your second home, Daryl May and Trusty Properties can help you out with all of that. It's his specialty. He's born and raised here in Baton Rouge, lives in St. Francisville. That's his neck of the woods. He's got access to the most premier listings of land if you're looking for 30 acres or 300 acres. Daryl May can help you out with your land purchases. He's there with Trusty Properties. Their name you can trust. And he brings us our Tuesday shows each and every week. When we come back, Will Clapp going to miss some time. What does that mean for the Saints, and what's that offensive line looking like as of today? We'll talk about it next.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Daryl May of Trusty Properties. Looking for land to hunt or build? Call Daryl May at Trusty Properties.
Saints were on the preseason field Sunday afternoon, and pretty quickly the offensive line injuries started to impact the interior of the Saints front line. Obviously, Will Clapp goes down early in that game. Trevor Penning went out a little bit later. And Nick Underhill at New Orleans Football reported yesterday that Clapp suffered a foot injury during the game and is going to miss, quote-unquote, significant time. That is absolutely a blow to this New Orleans Saints offensive line depth. Clapp has been a solid veteran in the NFL, spent time, of course, with the Saints, spent time with the Chargers when Brandon Staley was there. Kellen Moore was there as well. And he is a versatile player. Those here in this Baton Rouge market certainly know that well from his time at LSU, but he's been a center and a guard in the NFL, and you need depth at those positions. The last 2 years with the Saints offensive line have taught us anything. You've got to have some depth on the offensive line, and not only does Clapp add depth at center, where he was playing on Sunday, but he adds depth at both guard spots where he can absolutely fill in. And it was likely, very likely, I might add, that Clapp was going to make this team. And I still think there's a reasonable chance that happens, depending on just how significant this foot injury is. If this is something that's going to be 3 months, well, then the Saints have got to look elsewhere. If this is something that's 6 weeks, well, that's a different story altogether. So I'm not sure what the future holds for Will Clapp in the immediacy, but this is not good news for the New Orleans Saints, who need some guys up front to play better than they did on Sunday. It was I went into this was my lead into talking about the Saints and Chargers game from Sunday afternoon. Like, the Saints were bad on the offensive line. And I do think that you've got a really good center in Eric McCoy, who didn't play. So that's step one here to fill in for Clapp. The actual starter will be that guy. But then on the guards, like, Cesar Ruiz is not playing well. Like, he's been mediocre at best, serviceable at best. And then you look at Trevor Penning, who is a question mark at this point. And now he's even more of a question mark if he's hurt. So with Clapp going down, you saw Torricelli Simpkins come in, and I thought really played well. I think the highlight was when he came in and actually knocked down 2 defensive linemen on 1 blocking play. But I thought he acquitted himself reasonably well in spot duty there when Will Clapp went out unexpectedly. And that's a guy that you will look at to potentially add some depth to that group. He's a rookie. He's completely unproven at this level. But right now, you're not going to ask Eric McCoy to do too much in the preseason, and Will Clapp's unavailable. So all of a sudden, that becomes a guy who could be an option for you. As far as the other 2 guard spots with Penning and Ruiz, and then who's next, you've got some work to do to fill that spot, because I didn't see anything outside of Simpkins on Sunday that would give me a ton of confidence. So you've got workouts with the Rams, you've got a preseason game coming up at home with Jacksonville, and you've got a couple more weeks to get things in order. And I realize it feels like the Saints have been in training camp and practicing and for a while, and they have, but you do have a long runway in the NFL preseason. I think that runway is going to shorten up here in the next couple of years if they add a game on. But right now, you do have time. They've got to work some guys out and see what they can do to create some depth. Because I don't know what Penning's situation is, and Clapp is now a big question mark. And we know that finding offensive linemen that are functional and available is very, very difficult. The Saints have tried this game for the last 2 years as it's been just a mash unit up front. And the worst part about this is that it compromises your quarterback's ability to develop when you can't protect them. And that's not just in the preseason games. It's not just in the games that count coming up in September. It's practice. And you're not going to say, hey, Davon Godshaw, hey, Brian Brzee, hey, Jacksonville on Sunday. Like, can y'all, calm down for a second on the defensive front so our quarterbacks can get some work? Like, it doesn't work that way. You need guys up front to perform in every practice, in every rep, in every preseason game so that your young quarterbacks have a fighting chance. And it's hard to do when you've got, one, underperforming players, and two, injured players. So Clapp was at least going to be a pretty high floor option for you as depth. If you don't want to play McCoy a lot in the preseason, I get it. Well, now you don't necessarily have that. So to me, I'm looking big picture here. I'm less looking at, okay, Will Clapp's not available, so who's the backup right guard? That is important for an NFL team, but I'm not as concerned with it as far as the future of the Saints franchise goes. What I'm concerned with is, can anybody block while we're trying to get Tyler Shook reps? That's the big picture situation we're looking at here. And I just don't know the answer to it right now. So it's a question mark. It's one we'll have to look at. We'll talk to Sharif about it in the second hour. And we'll certainly watch and try to evaluate on Sunday. But the Saints just needed to stay healthy at a few of these positions. And the offensive line is certainly one of them. And while this is a backup, and I'm not trying to make too big a deal out of that, and you are talking about what doesn't appear to be a significant injury to Trevor Penning at left guard, you still basically have your 5-man starting lineup. But how often is that group going to play before you get to the snaps that really count? It's unfortunate, and certainly for a guy in Will Clapp that we know very well, that's worked here, that spent time at LSU and is now a second-time member of the New Orleans Saints and New Orleans native. Just a rough break for him that he won't be able to be out there for a significant amount of time, as Nick Underhill writes. But we'll see what the Saints decide to do with that offense and try to shore things up on the offensive line. And we'll certainly be talking about it as we move forward. Ross Jackson is out in California. He's covering things for LouisianaSports.net, certainly Locked On Saints as well. But if you're looking for your Saints coverage, you can find it there for free on LouisianaSports.net. Find my Saints stuff, Hunt on Saints, anywhere you find your podcasts, certainly on YouTube as well. Just search Hunt on Saints. If you subscribe to the channel, we certainly do appreciate that. All right, we'll transition back to LSU football. Glen West, Go 24/7, been out at practice each and every day, so we'll get his thoughts on what's going on out there when we come back on the Hunt Palmer Show.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Daryl May of Trusty Properties. Looking for land to hunt or build? Call Daryl May at Trusty Properties.
Tuesday show is brought to you by Daryl May, Trusty Properties. Glen West, senior writer, Go 24/7, joins us on Tuesdays. Been out at LSU practice each and every day. Joins us now on the Jim's Firearms Hotline. Glenn, how we doing?
Doing great, hon. How about yourself?
Doing very well. Let's talk about the competition 11 on 11 that we've seen. Big picture, what are your thoughts on how the offense and defense have looked going against each other?
I think the clear winner so far, if you were to ask me here through 2.5 weeks of camp, has been the defense. I think that just really the front seven has kind of set the tone, I think, for all of fall camp in regards to how 11 on 11 has gone to this point, and has led to some playmaking opportunities in the back half of the defense as well. So the offense has had its moments, whether it's in the red zone or on a couple big plays down the field through the passing game, a couple big 40-yard Caden Durham touchdown runs, things of that nature. But I think from a consistency standpoint, the defense has really applied a ton of pressure on the backfield of LSU, and making getting some pressure on Nussmeier, forcing some big tackles for loss, some minimal gains on the run kind of thing. And I think that the defense has been the big winner so far when you look at just the 11 on 11 stuff, and how the front seven and that front line of defense in particular, with guys like Bernard Gooden and Dominic McKinley and Jack Pyburn coming off the edge, Gabriel Relaford coming off the edge. All those guys have pretty consistently made plays and done a really nice job so far.
So with that being your take on it, I want to ask, has this looked different than the last 2 or 3 fall camps that you've watched?
I think so. I think last year there were some throws that Nussmeier would have wanted to have back in terms of just the interceptions. And to his credit, I think the reason the offense has looked not great hasn't been because of Nussmeier putting the ball in very many compromising positions. It's just been because, honestly, this defensive line is just having its way with the way that it's performing right now, and the aggression and the physicality, the havoc that it's creating back there. And so I will say, from that perspective, I think it is a little bit different than the previous couple of camps where maybe there was some pushback from the offensive line, and there wasn't as much pressure in previous fall camps. So it's just the age-old question, right? Though, is this a question of, is the defensive line just going to be that good for LSU? Is the front seven going to be that good? Or is this the thing that we talked about last week, where maybe it's just the offensive line needs a little bit more timing and a little bit more reps together to kind of finally start to push back a little bit? And I think that they did. I think that they have shown that back in the Saturday practice. I thought, outside of the penalties, the offensive line did show some protection on Garrett Nussmeier a little bit more consistently. And today, even, I think there wasn't as much pressure, and they were able to get a couple of good throws there to the back of the end zone. One to Xavion Thomas that went for a touchdown. So there's been some small signs of progress, I think, over the last couple of practices, but still a long ways to go in that respect.
What do you make of the big plays the offense has made? You mentioned the Durham touchdown runs and some big plays that Nussmeier's made through the air. Do you think this is going to be an explosive offense?
I think so. I think, we can't really know until the game start or anything like that. But I think that there is an explosive element to this offense that, when it's clicking and when it's working right, there's going to be some opportunities there for guys like Durham to make plays. Certainly Berrien Brown, Chris Hilton are guys that I think are going to make some big time plays for LSU this year. Trades Green was a guy that we talked to today, and they've been targeting him a ton in the red zone. I mean, I would probably guess, of the 20 or so plays that we've seen the offense run in the red zone, 7 or 8 of them have gone to Trades in terms of just trying to get him the ball inside the 10, inside the 20 kind of yard line area there. So there's going to be an element to that, of course, but I will say, the defense has done a good job of limiting those opportunities and making them more exceptions to the rule, as opposed to being a constant theme that we're seeing with this offense.
More catches this year, Trades Green or Bauer Sharp?
It's a great question. I would probably lean Trades. I think that they're just going to target him a ton in the red zone, and when the field shrinks, that was something we talked about with him today, as I mentioned, and he gave us a pretty great quote here that I just actually put up on our social media account. But he says, "I call the red zone the green zone," and he put that in kind of quotes there, because I feel like that's my zone to really kind of wreak havoc and have my way in kind of that area there. Because, I mean, the dude's 6'7", he's a legit target, somebody that I think Nussmeier is going to go after a lot. But Bauer Sharp's going to have a major role in this offense as well, and I think arguably he's been the guy that's gotten the most first team reps, maybe in that 11 on 11 when they've gone full kind of full drive mode. But certainly when the field shrinks, I think you're going to see Trades Green have a huge role on this team, and he's somebody that I think they're gonna split out wide a little bit too. Like they're gonna move him around a little bit, make him a very versatile piece in this offense. And so for that reason, I think that you're going to see maybe a few more catches for Trey'Dez, but both are going to be heavily involved.
Do you have a lean on the first, call it 4 secondary players? Who are the first 4 guys if you have Perkins at the star, but if you're just talking 2 corners, 2 safeties, who do you like right now?
Yeah, I think today we saw a really good unit that I think I wouldn't be a bit surprised if we see, week 1 against Clemson. It's Monsieur Delane and Ashton Stamps at cornerback, and then the safeties, AJ Halsey and Tamarcus Cooley. Like that was a pretty popular run today with they kind of did things a little bit different where it was the second team offense going against the first team defense. And so we saw, a lot of Cooley, a lot of Halsey, a lot of Stamps, and a lot of Monsieur Delane today. So I think that's maybe the 4 that I am kind of gravitating towards right now. Doesn't mean that those positions are settled. They're still rotating guys like Deshaun Spears in a ton. Certainly PJ Woodland and DJ Pickett are getting a couple of looks as well. But I think those top 4 are where I'm leaning right now.
I was not there on Saturday. I'm told that Jordan Gilbert worked some at star, and we know Harold Perkins is going to play there more often than not. Do you feel like it's less likely that he's a starting safety on this team?
I wouldn't put it past him to be a starter at week 1 against Clemson. Like I think I also saw that they did play him a little bit at star. He was going through individual drills at star at the very beginning of that Saturday practice, and so I think they're keeping their options open with Jordan in terms of his role on the team. But I think for me personally, Halsey and Cooley are the 2 that LSU would love to kind of take those 2 spots and run with them. But Gilbert will be involved just because from an experience standpoint, there's not many guys that have played the amount of SEC games or had the amount of snaps that he's had over the last couple of years of his career. So I think he still will be involved, but Halsey and Cooley are the 2 that I'm looking at most closely right now.
How do you feel Juwan Johnson's assimilated to a new role at running back?
Okay. I think right now they're still trying to get him caught up to speed with back at the running back position. I mean, he took a couple snaps at quarterback today and they did not go well, but I think, and he also had a few carries at running back too. And I don't believe he had many positive gains. Maybe he had a couple where he, had a couple yards, but I think he's going to have to be that 4th guy at running back. Like they're just so thin at that position right now, and they really need to be working with him at that position. And it's good to see, at least to start week 3 of fall camp, that they have maybe gravitated towards that a little bit more. Whereas before it was a little bit of running back, but mostly quarterback. I think now you're seeing it's mostly running back and a little bit of quarterback with Juwan Johnson.
Yeah, they've got to, with the depth of that running back position being as compromised that it is. All right, I'm going to throw this at you one at a time, so we'll take it one at a time. What's the most difficult game on LSU's schedule this year?
Clemson. I think Clemson's the easy answer here, just with all that's tied to it in week 1. If you win that game, what it means for your season, and if you lose that game, what it then means for your season and what you have to be to still accomplish the goals that you want to have. What's
the second toughest game on LSU's schedule?
Oof, that is a tough one because I think there are a couple that come to mind just right off the bat. Obviously, at Bama is going to be right up there, but to me, Florida at home, especially depending on how that Clemson game goes, Florida at home, I think is going to be a huge, huge game for LSU this year. But I'll probably stick with Bama on the road.
Then if I asked you what the third most difficult game was, you would go to Florida at home before you went to at Oxford, at Norman, South Carolina, the A&M.
I think so. I think Florida at home is going to be a huge, huge game for LSU this year. I think DJ Lagway in his sophomore season could very well be one of the best quarterbacks in the country this year. And that's going to be I think that's going to be a tough game for LSU, but one that you're glad is at home.
All right, I'm going to do that exercise coming up here in 20 minutes. I did it on our site back on the weekend, but I'm going to do it in 20 minutes. I think next week we'll probably get some season-long predictions from you, and then by the time we talk the third time, it'll be time to head to Clemson.
Yeah.
So fired up for it. We'll see you out there. We just got the email. I guess I'll see you out there on Friday morning.
All right, sounds good. I got to go check it. Thanks,
you go.
man. Appreciate it.
Glen West, senior writer, Go 24/7, team coverage, recruiting coverage. He's with us every Tuesday. You can check all that out, all his work at go247.com. He and Sonny do a fantastic job. Appreciate him for a little bit of time on Tuesdays moving forward. Sharif Ishak, always with us on Tuesdays as well. He'll be with us coming up in the second hour. I do, as we're on LSU right now, I want to get to meet the freshman next, but I've got a little bit more in this segment that I want to go. There is a name that I have not talked about a lot on this show that has not been a starter, but is creeping into practice more and more and making plays more and more. And it's not a guy that I gave a lot of thought to 3 weeks ago, because I'm looking at his position and I'm looking at a fifth-year senior and a third-year player who's going pro and a fourth-year player that's going pro and a guy that was in his class that played a little bit more than him. And I'm going, I don't know if there's a lot of room for Tylen Singleton to play. But Tylen Singleton, linebacker from Manny, has been out there a lot with the twos, and today was running with the first team. In 7-on-7, the first group they put out had the first team shell of the secondary, but neither Weeks brother was out there. It was Devon Keys and Tylen Singleton, and I liked that. I like getting those guys some work. Like Witt and West certainly were out there practicing. I told you that Witt and Harold Perkins had a TFL. West had a really nice play at the line of scrimmage against Juwan Johnson where he locked him up, and those guys were practicing, but they continue to sub some guys in, and they want to get looks at some guys. And Tylen Singleton is a guy that I think, based on his usage in practice, is someone that I think they would be comfortable putting in the game. He's down the pecking order because it's going to be Witt Weeks, and then it's going to be West Weeks, and then it's going to be Devon Keys. But I think Singleton would be the fourth guy ahead of all those freshmen at this point. Perkins, I think, is out at star. He's not going to come inside. They're not going to do that to him. And that's a good thing, because you don't want to have to move Harold Perkins inside, because you don't have another linebacker to turn to, and then so you can bring Jordan Gilbert into star, move Perkins inside, because then I think you are weakening yourself significantly at star if you take Harold Perkins away from it. And so if Tylen Singleton can work his way up to a steady fourth option at inside linebacker, that's a very good thing. And based on the way that he has gotten some reps, some with the second team, more with the second team, okay, now let's put him in there with a little bit of the first team guys. Like, plus, you realize, as I just mentioned, West Weeks is gone after this year, Witt Weeks is going to leave, and Harold Perkins is gone. So you're going to need to overhaul that linebacker core. I like the fact that Devon Keys is going to be in his second year playing a lot of football, and if Tylen Singleton can get to the field a good bit this year, I think that's a very good thing for LSU as they look to the next season. You realize how much of this roster is going to move on after this year, and that's not something we're going to talk a ton about right now because they got a big season to play here. But it's just, the program doesn't stop if you lose 3 games this year. You got to keep fielding a team, and I think Tylen Singleton deserves a bit of a mention here as we've been out at practice the last couple of days, and I saw him a lot today, specifically with the first team, and I think he's doing a good job in his second year in the program. So wanted to give a little shout out there to Tylen Singleton. All right, when we come back, we'll meet the freshmen, and then we got a busy second hour coming up. Tuesday show is brought to you by Daryl May of Trusty Properties right here on the Hunt Palmer Show.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Daryl May of Trusty Properties. Looking for land to hunt or build? Call Daryl May at Trusty Properties.
All right, closing up shop here in hour number 1. We got a busy hour number 2. Sharif Ishak, bottom of the hour. At the top of hour 2, I'm going to talk about LSU's schedule this coming year, and I'll rank it most difficult to easiest games on the slate. And then I've got some numbers for LSU's defense from last year that actually surprised me a little bit this morning that I wanted to get to and kind of lay those out. So we'll do that at 2:15. But for right now, to close out the hour, let's meet the freshmen.
Meet the freshmen. Freshmen, meet the freshmen. They're the newest Tigers on the team.
And it started with Jamie Howard's kid, Walker Howard, showing up on campus for a year. And that went back to my childhood when I knew those players, and now their sons are on the team. And we continue that here with J.D. LaFleur, son of David LaFleur, plays the same position as well. And J.D. LaFleur is a big boy, 6'7", 253 pounds. He becomes the biggest tight end on LSU's roster immediately. And I think he is going to be guarded from the field at this point in his career because you've got Bauer Sharp, you've got Trey'Dez Green, and then Donovan Green can come in and kind of be that extra blocker who can certainly catch the football. So you've got J.D. LaFleur as kind of next in line. Bauer Sharp will move on after this year. Donovan Green maybe comes back, and then Trey Green will have another year. But J.D. LaFleur will see more playing time next year because he's physically a big mauling blocker. But he can also catch the ball. He's got soft hands, and he comes from that great pedigree with his dad being a first-round pick in the NFL draft of the Dallas Cowboys. He was a 4-star recruit by On3 and Rivals, 3 stars by 24/7 and On3. You're talking about Rivals called him number 17 tight end in the country, number 12 player in the state of Louisiana. I think this is a really high floor ad here for LSU in this class. You're talking about a guy who understands the position, understands how to play because of the house that he grew up in, and the measurables are fantastic to be that big and that strong. So a year where he'll be able to kind of ease into the program. He'll get stronger, which is a scary thought considering how big he is. And I think his time to actually contribute and play will be next year. Speaking of size, that's the next guy on this list. And this is one of those freshmen you walk out there and you go, that's a freshman? CJ Jim Coyley is massive. And as I sit here today, I can't tell you exactly what position he's going to play at LSU. He's listed on LSU's roster as a safety. When he was being recruited, it was linebacker. Either way, he is 6'3" and all of 6'3" and 220 pounds. Keep in mind, when Eric Reed left LSU at safety as an All-American, he was 6'2", 215 pounds. CJ Jim Coyley is already bigger than that, and you notice it when you go out to the practice field. So he's worked some at star, he's worked some at safety, and I think there is an opportunity for him potentially to work at linebacker depending on what he fills out to. If he's 6'3", 235 pounds, which is very possible in a year and a half in the program, that's a linebacker. I don't know how you could play safety at 230. He's 220 right now. I've not seen him cut it wide open and run, so I don't know what that looks like. But physically, his size is really, really, really impressive. He was a consensus 4-star, one of the top players in the state of Tennessee. He prepped at Lipscomb Academy and played 1 year for Kevin Mawai there. Top 5 player in the state of Tennessee, top 15 safety nationally by Rivals. He is a physical specimen, and they just have to find a place to get him on the field. I don't think that's this year. They've loaded so heavily with the transfer portal that I don't think there's a spot for him right now. And you look at that freshman class that he's a part of, and there are 5 linebackers in that class. So it's going to be interesting to see where he moves around. My sincere hope is that they find a spot and put him there because I think he can shine because of his measurables. But he looks athletic. He doesn't look like a freshman, and he is as impressive a body type as you will see in this freshman class. There are guys that Harlem Berry, DJ Pickett, those guys are out there repping with the ones a lot. Charles Ross has gotten some run with the second-team linebackers. We've seen Carius Kern is a guy that's impressed a lot of folks. And so there are some members of this freshman class that the staff and the players are very, very high on. I haven't heard as much about CJ Jim Coyley, but file that name away because I think he's going to help. Taylor, you've been out there at practice. We got like 50 seconds there. I mean, am I wrong when you look at Jim Coyley physically? That's not what freshmen used to look like.
No, I mean, there's been times where he's ran second-team star behind Perkins. I mean, they're moving around everywhere. I like him. I actually think he's going to play a little bit.
I wouldn't be stunned. Louisiana Tech and Southeastern, you'll see him out there if you're watching on the TV cut. From the stadium, it may be a little bit tough to see, but from the TV cut, you'll notice him. He is an impressive dude. So that's maybe the 2 most physically impressive freshmen in the class, J.D. LaFleur and CJ Jim Coyley. We've got 3 days left of Meet the Freshman. That means we've got 6 guys left to run through. We'll get through the entire class for 2025 here at LSU. So that'll wrap up hour number 1. If you missed any of it, catch it on demand. My practice report at the top of the show. You can find that at Hunt on LSU. Also chatted with Glen West as well. When we come back, a lot of LSU for the first half hour. Then we'll talk to Sharif in 35 minutes. Come back after Sports Center on the Hunt Palmer Show.